What's going on, guys? This is your budget gamer coming at you with a $550 PC build. Now this PC is about as close as you can get for console performance at this budget. It can still play every game at 1080p. You would probably have to tone down the settings to medium to maybe high settings, and you'll receive around 30 or a little more FPS. So without further ado, I'm just going to start with the build. So for the CPU, I decided to choose the AMD Athlon X4 860K. This CPU clocks in at 3.7 GHz and is a quad-core processor, which is necessary for the games nowadays. It has low wattage output of 35 watts and will run you about $95 based on the price of this video on this recording. For the motherboard, I decided to choose the MSI A68HM-E30FM2 Plus motherboard. It's from MSI, who makes decent motherboards. This is in micro ATX form factor as well. For memory types, it can support up to DDR3 1333, 1600, 1866, and 2133 MHz. It can support up to 32 gigs of RAM, so you have a lot of upgrade availability there. It also supports RAID support and has 4 6 gigabits per second SATA ports. The only downside I can see about this motherboard is that it has no onboard USB 3.0 headers. But for a gaming PC at this price, you can't ask for much. For the RAM, I decided to choose the Kingston HyperX Fury Black 8GB 2x4GB sticks running at DDR3 1866 MHz. Realistically, any 8GB kit of RAM works for this build. Now, if you are the type of person that wants to upgrade in the future, I suggest buying one single stick of 8GB of RAM because the RAM slots in the motherboard only support 2 of them. But if you aren't looking to upgrade, 8GB will do you just fine. So for the storage, I decided to choose the Western Digital Caviar Blue at 1TB, 3.5-inch hard drive running at 7200 RPM. We're not at the point of gaming where we can get an SSD and just rely on that yet. So for now, for the mass storage to hold all your games, movies, whatever you want to put in it, this will do you just fine right now. Western Digital Blue in general is known for low failure rates, so you should be able to rely on this no problem. I've already had mine for about a year and a half, but it's still running pretty strong. So for the crux of the build, I decided to choose the Asus Radeon R7 360. It's a 2GB video card. Its core clock is at 1.07 GHz, and it also supports FreeSync, which means that you won't get any screen tearing within your games. In terms of benchmarks, it can run Counter-Strike around 80 to 100 frames a second, which is fine for someone who just wants to play games at 60 frames per second. For Battlefield 4, you can run the game at 1080p on high or ultra settings at around 30 frames per second, which looks better than the consoles. And awesomely enough, this card can run Witcher 3 at around 30 FPS, which is still better than a console because consoles can dip around 20 FPS or 18 depending on what's going on during the game. So for the case, I decided to choose the NZXT Source 210 Black, or you can get white if you want, and this is a mid-tower case. But it does also support micro ATX and mini ITX boards. This case has no 3.0 ports, but that's not really necessary because we don't have any on the motherboard to begin with. And this is considered one of the go-to cases for like very budget end builds that still get a bang for your buck. And for the power supply, I decided to choose the EVGA 500 watt 80 plus bronze certified ATX power supply. Nothing crazy here. You only have one graphics card in your build, so you don't need more than 500 watts. This one is not modular, so you might have quite a bit of cables, but if you fork over a bit more, you can get cleaner cable management within your build. EVGA as a manufacturer is pretty reliable. I use it myself, so you should be okay in terms of the reliability side, and the power supply is the heart of your build, so this one should do you just fine. So guys, you need to understand that prices fluctuate all the time. At this time of this recording, the price of this PC is $544, but if you wait a little longer, it could go lower. But overall, this should be a well-rounded build. Builds with graphics cards and CPUs will always do better than an APU or are more consistent than an APU, so you should be just fine. And on top of that, you have so many games to choose from, whether it's on Steam or Origin. You're not very restricted in comparison to the console, so you're good. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to like, favorite, subscribe, or criticize, dislike, whatever you want. but just make sure that you guys are keeping updated with your knowledge of PCs. Anyways, have a great day. This is your Budget Gamer, signing out.